Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, I'm Siti Marwah Azis. I'm from English Education Class B 2019, and I'm one of Group 3 members. So now I would like to deliver our material in chapter 9. So the first material will be delivered by me, and it's about the vocabulary acquisition model. So vocabulary functions like a key that unlocks doors of understanding. Words allow us to comprehend our world and express our thinking about it. Comprehension of words is essential to learning and correcting with school success or failure. Therefore, attention to vocabulary development must occur not only in the language arts but also in every subject area. Models and strategies that facilitate vocabulary development, emphasizing understanding and retention are important tools in every teacher's toolkit. They improve learning for all students from native English speakers to English language learners to students with learning disabilities. So now we move to the next material, that is what is the vocabulary acquisition model. The vocabulary acquisition model is a teacher guided instructional model that facilitates student development of vocabulary in a productual and inductive manner. The models enable students to attain deep understanding of key vocabulary in each academic discipline. It also allows them to develop skills useful for independent vocabulary learning and cultivated students' appreciation for the complexity of language. In the vocabulary acquisition model, students engage in carefully orchestrated experiences that enable them to study words and apply them in context. The vocabulary acquisition model can be utilized when teaching factual or conceptual knowledge types and stretches student thinking beyond basic levels of the cognitive process dimension. It encourages them to go beyond remembering and understanding vocabulary, challenging them to achieve deep understanding as they apply the word within context and to analyze its structure. When reflection about one's learning is incorporated with the model, it also permits the development of procedural knowledge. So, what are the history and origins of the vocabulary acquisition model? The vocabulary acquisition model helps students in numerous ways. The most important are that it teaches students a deep understanding of the words studied and enables them to achieve greater success in exploring words in the future. The model addresses the need for students to develop a deep understanding of words by exploring the etymology, meanings, and patterns inherent in words. Deep understanding of vocabulary, the comprehension of a word's complexity and its relationship to other concepts is at the core of the model. So when we talk about deep understanding, so what is deep understanding? Students acquire deep understanding active through engagement in their learning process, especially when they exercise the higher level cognitive processes enumerated in the revised Blossom's taxonomy. Deep Deep understanding results when students appreciate new learning in relation to that which is already known and can be known. And about what is deep understanding of vocabulary? Deep understanding of vocabulary consists of three different activities. The first is acquisition, and the second is comprehension, and the third is generation. So, association involves students' ability to make connections between a word, its definition or context, and about comprehension refers to how students demonstrate their knowledge of vocabulary by using the word in a sentence or classifying it with related words such as antonyms and synonyms. And then about generation. Generation includes students' application of the word in a novel situation or sentence, or by defining the word in their own words. So now we move to talk about research on vocabulary acquisition. The importance of vocabulary acquisition is supported by research on reading. Studies suggest that reading comprehension is highly correlated with vocabulary knowledge, whether learners are native English speakers or those learning a second language. Several challenges are associated with word development, and teachers who recognize them can be more supportive of their students as they learn new vocabulary. In the Handbook of Reading Research, Nagy and Scott point out five factors that foster word knowledge and illustrate the complexity of such knowledge. The first is incrementality, and the second is polysemy, and the third is multidimensionality, and next is interrelation interrelatedness, and the last is heterogeneity. Vocabulary acquisition is particularly challenging for students who are ELLs. Their limited academic vocabulary leads to a diminished academic success when they reach middle and high school, where academic language and its complexity become more common. In addition to being aware of the five factors described above, teachers who work with ELLs might benefit from the findings of the vocabulary improvement project designed to improve the English vocabulary of native Spanish speakers. The findings were as follows. The first is words to be studied should be encountered in several different contexts to display semantic weight. And the second is the study of the spelling of words is important because it helps develop clear phonological representation and builds orthographic knowledge. And the third is instruction should focus on powerful mechanism for learning about words rather than long lists of target words, and the four is morphological analysis and knowledge of key differential morphemes should be taught explicitly. And next, information about multiple meanings and practice in recognizing these should be an explicit part of instruction. And the last is possibilities for inferring meanings for, from context, and limitation on those possibilities should be taught explicitly.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fajriani Noviantari. I'm from English Education B. I will explain the next material. The material is called the vocabulary acquisition model by applied and why. The vocabulary acquisition model is best application to teach vocabulary word in any context or but not just any vocabulary word. Selection of word soul of war, soul the strategy and international that is the best of the models and for teaching war was comprehension and is foundational for other learning. uh, Learning words that have morphology and terminology you ask for understanding other words. The next material uh, teach the etymology or morphology of word. Two of the main purpose of the vocabulary acquisition model are for students to analyze the etymology and morphology of particular word and again gain an appreciation of the etymology and morphology of all words. Teachers chose this model when they mentor their students to understanding of word parts and meaning as well as discuss test real comprehension of word. The next material, the academic teach academic vocabulary and language. Every discipline has vocabulary and language that enables clear and consistent communication with others about facts, producer and compress of certain different aspects, uh, histories, mathematics, muscular systems, and teach, for example. All usual terms and language is consisting of their disciplines. The sum, the sum, the sum is true with individual academic context trace. The next material foster deep understanding. All usual terms and language is consisting of their disciplines. The sum, the sum, the sum is true with individual academic context trace. The next material foster deep understanding for foster deep understanding vocabulary. Master of academic language is critical to student academic success and context era Francis 2006, such as master in obtaining a depth in understanding of vocabulary general and constrained vocabulary word in particular. The vocabulary question model for student deep understanding vocabulary because it requires them to ask context process. Why will a well analysis vocabulary introduction. This model student conduction individual study of the spine merit of war. There are etymology and morphology and what's in the war related to other word. The next material. What are the steps in vocabulary acquisition model? The vocabulary acquisition model has five major steps. One, present knowledge depth of word critical to context. Two, elaborate on the discussed living and sleep and hyper-knowledge. Three, explore patterns of meaning. Four, read and study. And the last, uh, five, a flight and the poster and describe below figure and other roles student. The teacher will employ the steps. Step 1. Present chronologies of word particular to context. During this step, the teacher tests student knowledge the critical vocabulary that he or she has identified as student need to learn on wise text. The knowledge is by using vocabulary warm up, a type of graphic organized otherwise the wise.
Hello, my name is Daniel Pakiding and I'm from Group 3. I will continue the explanation. So, what does the vocabulary acquisition model look like in the classroom? In this part, there are three scenarios about how the vocabulary acquisition model look like in a classroom. So, the first scenario was made by second grader teacher named Rich Muller. He wanted to teach about word polygons in math vocabularies. So he started making learning model. So the first, there are several steps in his learning model. The first step is he told his students to make a vocabulary journal, and in that journal the students write new vocabularies in their own definition. The second is Rich start to mention word polygons and give the students some clue, and his students start to hypothesize the meaning and write it on their journal. Third, after that, Rich divide them into groups and then tell them to discuss about the word polygons mean. And the fourth step is finally, after the students know the right definition and the polygons form, then Rich gave them homework to collect pictures of polygons in magazine. And when the test come, all students could answer the polygons questions. And now move to the second scenario. The second scenario was made by Anjali Gupta. She making a vocabulary acquisition model about vocabulary in music and tempos. Made the model for the 6th grade students. So the first step of her model is she gave tests about tempos and music. And the second is she make them to discuss about it in pairs about 10 minutes. And then she divided the groups, she divided the class into group of 4. In that discussion, the student exchanging information about definition of the 5 major tempos. The third is, after the student find a correct definition and understanding, she told them to post their definition in Wiktionary. Wiktionary is a class website in their school. And finally, she led them to access a website about music to give them more information. And her models was success. And we move into the third scenario. The teacher named Susanna Newton. She is a high school teacher and she made vocabulary acquisition model about word ethics in journalistic class. Now, as usual, the first step of the model is she gave tests about what ethics mean. After that, the second step is she divided her students into groups to discuss about it and looking for related words in ethic. After that, she gave them homework to study about ethics code from internet. And in the next meeting, she opened a forum to discuss about ethic codes. Now, in these scenarios was made to inform about different models for different students. From the next topic, planning for the teaching with the vocabulary acquisition models. The first, you don't need to teach all the vocabulary. You just need to pick based and essential word for the student's academic success. The second is you need to understand the morphology and the etymology of the vocabulary because how could you guide them, I mean your students, if you didn't know a solid understanding about the word? The third is select research you like to use in teaching, such as internet or journal. So, so you can so you can have many preference of the context about the word. And the last is determine your teaching framework. You have to know the goal of your teaching model. I think that's all from me. Moving to the next presenter of my group. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Desy Puspasari Perti, and now I will continue the material. The material is differentiating instruction with the vocabulary acquisition model. There are multiple ways in which a teacher may differentiate instruction while using the vocabulary acquisition model to teach vocabulary. Use of the model itself acknowledges that all learners can benefit by direct teaching of study skill, but the model also supports differentiation of the content of learning, the learning process, and the product that students create to demonstrate their learning. Content. Differentiation of the content of instruction in this model involves providing students access to resources related to the word being studied that are different in their authenticity, levels of complexity, and format. Next is process. Teachers can differentiate instruction within the process of the 5 phases of the vocabulary acquisition model as well. Each of the scenarios in this chapter shows not only a different way the teacher might apply the different phases of the model, but also how teachers can have students work through the model with different groupings. Teachers can allow students to self-select groupings based on interest, or they can assign students to ability level groups to read and study. Finally, teachers can have students complete different graphic organizer as in to read and study the vocabulary. Next is product. The product of instruction or the means that students use to demonstrate their learning can be differentiated in various ways in the final piece of the vocabulary acquisition model. This piece involves an evaluation and post-test of the vocabulary learned. Teachers can choose the methods for assessment or allow students to choose how to demonstrate their learning. The assessment can be closed as in a traditional test or more open as in a performance or a type of multimedia output. Next material is what are the benefits of applying the vocabulary acquisition model. A clear benefit of the vocabulary acquisition model is that it helps improve student understanding of vocabulary, which is essential to their academic success. Yet the model also has several other benefits discussed in the following section. Foster deeper understanding of words. This model fosters deeper understanding of specific vocabulary and complexity and composition of words in general. For instance, in scenario 9-3, students examine what ethnic means in variety of contexts they learn through the use of cognitive processes at the higher levels of the Revis Bloom taxonomy. Example analyze that ethnic is not a cut and dried word. Its implication in context, especially given the cases examined, show how complex the word is. This also helps students develop a deeper understanding beyond the definition of the vocabulary. Next is teaches students to examine words morphology and the etymology. Simply studying a list of words or being able to spell them correctly does not serve students well if those actions fail to result in retention. By learning the morphology and etymology of words, students are more likely to maintain their learning and develop strategies for deciphering and understanding word parts in other situations. Student next material is linked to prior knowledge. The vocabulary attainment models built on students' prior knowledge of vocabulary from the first step pretesting. This connection to prior knowledge is consistent with theories on cognition and helps to dispel any misconception the students might already have about a word. Addresses various learners' needs. This model accommodates variation in the way students demonstrate their prior knowledge of vocabulary words, how they explore the use of words, practicing meaning, and demonstrate their understanding of words, as if it provides many ways for the needs of learners to be addressed. Provides practicing in different contexts. Step 4 of these models provides students opportunity to learn about vocabulary by experiencing this word in multiple and different contexts. This step allows students to apply their knowledge. Next is promotes transfer of knowledge. Knowledge transfer is ability to apply the understanding of concept, facts, procedure, and principle in another context. In this model, students can read and study the vocabulary through various contexts and media and then share this knowledge also in a variety of contexts.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Dhiya Salsabila from English Education Class B. Now I will explain the next material is what value does technology add to the vocabulary acquisition model. There are many technology research teachers can use to plan a lesson using the vocabulary acquisition model. Numerous tools are available online for teachers to learn the morphology and etymology of words. An internet search of vocabulary using a non-linear search tool might reveal the various practical meanings and provide student context for situating correct application of the term. Not only is technology beneficial in the planning of lessons with this model, but it is also very useful in the model's implementation. Students and teachers can use search engines and directories to find and learn more about the vocabulary in different contexts and media. Students may create a word process document in the first stage that they can modify later as they learn the correct spellings and meanings of the words in steps 1 through 4 of the model. Assessment is a critical aspect of the vocabulary acquisition model. Teachers may use online tools, games, or templates to test student knowledge of the target vocabulary in the first or last step of the model. For instance, teachers may use online puzzle making tools, an online quiz tool, or games such as Science Vocabulary Hangman. The next material is Vocabulary Acquisition Model Lessons Plan Example. The following lesson plan is an example of the vocabulary acquisition model. This may seem time consuming, but it is important for students to learn the strategy for deciphering words, a strategy that student will be able to implement later on their own. After students become comfortable with this model, a teacher may use several pertinent vocabulary words instead of just one. A teacher asks students to share their definition or spellings in pairs and to decide on one definition or spelling. Teacher writes this on the board and then tells students which spellings are correct and which definition is correct. Closure. Teachers bring closure by reviewing student findings, generalization, conclusion, and analysis. Today, we explored the spellings, definition, and a synonym for the word revolution.
The next one is differentiation strategies for the vocabulary acquisition model lesson. In the sections that follow are some suggestions. One might apply to differentiate instruction in the vocabulary acquisition model lesson. The first one is content. Differentiating content means differentiating the student's access to the material that presents content. For example, information about word revolution, from written content to auditory content like Song Revolution from the Beatles. Process. Process means ways to differentiate the learning process. For example, some students could understand by the visual teaching, some of them prefer orally teaching, and teacher could process them with 4 steps of vocabulary acquisition model lesson. And the third one is product. Product is to differentiate the product demonstration. Teacher could provide options like complete a map, like spelling, definition, synonym and etymology of the word, draw an artistic representation of the word, provide verbal evidence of understanding the word, and simply just write out the spelling, definition, synonym and etymology of the word on a piece of paper. And that's all from our group. We do sincerely apologize if there is any mistake in our videos. I hope you guys enjoy and see you guys in the next video.